Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We shift gears, and I was holding up this book before. The book is The Rail and What Was Really Doing in the 1960s Bronx. Boy, if only we really knew. But the guy who wrote the book is Tommy Donovan. Nice to have you with us, Tommy.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for having me.
There's so much here. Let's just put it out. You and I both grew up in the Van Cortlandt Village neighborhood of the Bronx, where I still live. You sought your fortune elsewhere and became Dr. Tommy Donovan. But just talk to me about the motivation to write a book, and not only just a couple of memories, but you remembered much more than I could ever remember. Talk to me about what motivated you to say that this was something so special, so important, I wanted to write about it.
Well, it evolved over many years after many of my friends and I left the neighborhood. We would find ourselves conversing about talking to various friends, being at dinner parties, and telling stories about growing up in the Bronx. And to a person, these stories left people with their mouths wide open, completely mesmerized. They've never heard of anything like this. Their neighborhoods never compared to anything like this. And for a while, I was just musing with my friends, we should write a book. We should write a book. And they said, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, big shot.
And I wrote a letter to a dear friend of mine in 1992, promising that I would write a book. It only took another 30 years to do that.
Well, it's a big book. You got a lot in here.
I just wanted to also expose people to our neighborhood, but personally, my personal motivation was I wanted to honor the place and the people that helped raise me, and in my opinion, saved me from a very dysfunctional household. I came to age in that neighborhood, and the friends and the people who lived there in this beautiful Jewish community made me what I am today. And I wanted to express that in the best way possible. It was a love story, really, about my neighborhood.
I do want to talk a little bit about the specifics and why the rail, which they're on the rail outside the park. You can see that there. But I do want to ask about that, which is a whole fascinating personal story, because you are not, I am Jewish, yes. You are not Jewish, and you were the rare kind of person in our neighborhood. I remember growing up and all my friends were Jewish. We went to Hebrew school together. Was that a source of difficulty for you? I mean, was it tough being like that?
At different points it was. I remember my first day at PS 95, not the first day, but the first time during the Jewish holidays when nobody was there. There was like 5 of us in school. So I was like, what kind of neighborhood is this? Where has my mother brought me? So it was a little alienating. And but I didn't have much toughness. I felt welcomed. I mean, maybe there was talk behind my back that never got to my face, but I always felt welcomed, you know.
So, I want to really focus on this rail. This is an interesting thing. To me, this took the place of what people would traditionally think about the stoop. That people hang out in their building, and then they come down in the stoop, or on the steps in front of, let's say, a large complex. But in Van Cortlandt Park, you guys, more so than me, I didn't live right in this area. You guys hung out on the rail. Talk about the metaphorically or otherwise what that rail really meant.
I think your analogy about the stoop is perfect, because at the rail, depending on the time of day or the season of the year, you could find people talking sports, you could find people singing a cappella under the streetlights, you could find people smoking cigarettes, buying ice cream. It was definitely, for me and a lot of my friends, the magnetic true north of our neighborhood, where you sort of collected there like iron filings under a magnet, and then you made your plans for the day. You either went to the candy store, you went swimming, or you went to play basketball. This was the magnetic north, certainly of my generation, and I think some of the older guys before me. It was magic.
What you just started to address what my next question was. So what was the magic that inspired you to write the book in the first place, inspired you to tell other people stories that they were like, my goodness. I mean, I know what it is because we have this unique and had, I mean, things change, of course. We had this unique combination of kind of community within this large beast that was New York City. But from your perspective and what you wrote about, talk to me about what that magic was, what made it so compelling, what made you say at 6 o'clock after dinner you were gonna, I'll be down in the park. I mean, that's what you said. Talk to me about why that was, what was magic about that.
Part of the magic was the blending of different generations. There would be elders there would be guys who were in high school, there would be guys in junior high school, guys and girls, I should say. It was just the interdigitation or the exchange of like communal energy that was focused there, because it was right in front of the playground. It was a central location. You only had one street into the neighborhood to get to it. The magic was the people and the interface between multiple generations. It was absolutely fascinating, and everybody seemed welcome there. Although every once in a while, some of the older guys would say, "You kids don't belong here.
Yeah.
Go hang out somewhere else." But by and large, this was the watering hole, the gathering place, the for me and my generation and other people, the epicenter, the heartbeat of our neighborhood. And
I found, I lived a little further away, still live a little further away from that spot. We found the schoolyard, the PS 95 schoolyard, to be that place where we all played stickball and all that. And we had that same kind of thing. Let's just address the writing of the book. Did you have, I mean, because it's so detailed and you had so much in there. Did how did how did you remember all this stuff? I mean, I don't even know if I mean, I remember delivering papers in the neighborhood and all these other things that many of us did. I don't think I could remember the detail. And there aren't movies of this, films or very few photographs. Talk to me just about the writing of it.
well, it took me 4 years to write once I started it. I started it in 2012 and I finished it in 2016. Um, I'm not sure. I've had this question posed to me before. It just seemed like um, all these images came up as I charted the trajectory of my arrival in the neighborhood and my departure from the neighborhood. The details just simply rose to the surface, and I tried to capture them as quickly as I could. I also sent emails and made phone calls to people who I said, "Well, do you remember this? Or what happened to so and so? Or, have you been there lately? What's it like?" So there was communal discourse over certain events and certain people.
I also think that the nature of the community, which frankly is still
Yes.
relatively strong and secure in that way, being amalgamated houses that were right there. There, we all went to day camp together. We certainly played basketball on the courts there at the Van Cortlandt playground. I think that really contributed to all of it, as well as, let's be honest, the excitement of cutting the fence to get into the golf course, to do things that we probably wouldn't do out in front of the park.
Right.
And all of that was part of it, to create a childhood that was filled with kind of the excitement of childhood, with the comfort of being in a secure neighborhood and being with a lot of the same people. I mean, that's the way it was for me growing up. And I'm presuming that you had the same. I mean, to me, that was the magic, is that we really understood this as an embracing community.
I think that's right. I mean, the fact that at the amalgamated office, the bulletins would go out, "Attention cooperators." Everybody knew that we were part of a larger vision, I believe. To varying degrees, people knew that this was something special. And the amalgamated cooperative movement was the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I think that affected all of us.
Have you had a chance to visit the neighborhood since? And I'd be curious what your impressions are. Things are different. You know, I hear from a lot of old time Bronxites like, oh my goodness, don't go to the Bronx, whatever, which of course is ridiculous. I still live here. We still live and work. And but I'm curious, do you have a sense that something survives, something is the same? I mean, do you have a feel for that?
I do. I was just there 2 weeks ago, actually. I took a walk with my friend. Every street, every corner, we were comparing notes. We ran into a friend of mine from fourth grade who
Wow.
I hadn't talked to in 50 years. We had a great chat and we were remembering each other, putting the pieces together. The neighborhood feels a lot smaller than it did when we were kids. You know, to walk 2 blocks, to walk to Gale Place from the rail was a bit of a schlep, but now it's like it's
Just
a
walk down the block.
couple of steps away. Um, yeah, I feel the magic there. I do. I mean, the landscape has changed dramatically. It's definitely grown over, a lot more foliage, less open space, except for the playground and the
And
dog
and
park.
oh, I'll give you two things. We're almost out of time. Two things. One is certainly the diversity has changed. In other words, you
Correct.
talked about it being a Jewish neighborhood. I mean, all our Bronx neighborhoods. I mean, yes, there are little ghettos of different areas, but certainly in this community, it is, it's diverse. And also, we all went to the same schools,
Right.
whereas the kids now go to a lot of different schools. So that changes the dynamic. Parents are not the same. But I get the sense that in that community, much like you said, there's a lot that just is the same. The one thing that I regret is they needed to add more school space, so they cut our schoolyard in half. And the 15 stickball games that were
Uh,
pitching, and then the one long stick game that was usually going on at the same time.
Such a
That doesn't
loss.
exist. You're going to write more? You're going to do more, or was this the thing that you really had on your mind?
This is the thing I really had on my mind, but I'm considering writing some books on Celtic mythology, which is my father's heritage. But
Oh, okay.
we'll see
Well,
how that goes.
that may go outside the Bronx. Anyway, folks, the book is The Rail, What Was Really Going On in the 60s Bronx. You've heard a lot of talk about it. This gives you all the detail and more, and a real feel for maybe some of the types of communities we can reclaim if we want. Tommy Donovan, check it out on Amazon, B&N, everywhere, right? You can pick up the
That's
book
right.
anywhere.
Thank you,
Great.
Gary.
Tommy Donovan, say hello to all my friends that you know that I know, and that's what we'll
Well,
do. Folks, a great show today. We went, from the political world to the down to earth grassroots world and back. And thanks to our producer, Rebecca Hemick. Our intern is Elliot Adams. Thanks to Tommy and also to Jeff Colton from City and State New York. And guess what? We'll see you next week. Good night.